After setting off nearly 2 weeks ago from the Queensland border, these riders have come a long way. They've been pedalling about 80 to 100 kilometres a day as they travel down the coast to their final destination in Sydney, pitching tents for welcome overnight breaks along the way. Today's arrival in Dungog marked the 800-kilometre mark of the charity ride, and the rush of 1,350 cyclists into the town was much to the delight of the weary participants and local shopkeepers. The group virtually doubled the town's population for the night, giving a strong boost to the local economy.
We've had a pretty good run with the weather. Very little rain. Today it rained all day just about, and we're looking forward to a good hot shower.
Some didn't quite make it to the official but very damp camping site this afternoon, instead choosing to spend the night at the town's local pub. But participants say that's what it's all about.
Well, it's a personal challenge, and also, we've met so many great people, over the rides, and there are a lot of international riders on this particular ride.
The riders head off early tomorrow for Cessnock and are expected to arrive in Sydney on Sunday. Vanessa Ruther, NBN News.
The robbery happened at 2:30 yesterday afternoon and police are still searching for the bandit. These pictures show the robber, believed to be in his mid to late 20s, entering the store unarmed, demanding cash and casually leaving. Meanwhile, police arrested a 27-year-old woman this afternoon and charged her with 5 offences after an incident at Glendale. It's alleged the woman damaged a Lake Road house with an axe before trying to set it alight. A long police chase followed. It ended when 3 police cars forced a woman's vehicle off the road at Edgeworth. And a lucky escape for the driver of this VW van this afternoon. The man lost control of his vehicle at Merriweather Heights. The van veered across the Pacific Highway over a small embankment, ending up wedged against a guardrail. The driver escaped serious injury.
After days of rain, organisers of the show arrived to find a wet and slushy Muswellbrook Oval this morning. All of the camp drafting and polo cross events were cancelled upon appraisal. But this was the least of the organisers' worries. Nearly 50 local dairy farmers chose to sidestep the show and instead attend a meeting on the future of their industry.
That is very disappointing because it's taken away a number of exhibitors and certainly a lot of spectators.
While the show president admits the issue of industry deregulation is timely, he says surely some thought could have been given to the scheduling of the meeting.
This show's been planned for 12 months and this meeting was only planned in the past week, so I think that the timing is extremely bad.
However, show stalwarts persevered, setting up their stand for the big event. More than 5,000 people are expected to pass through the gates this weekend to see some of the highlights including dressage, sideshow alley and rides. Vanessa Arthur, NBN News.
For 242 days, an Allied contingent of mainly Australian soldiers in Tobruk held off an enemy intent on marching across the Middle East. There was to be no retreat and no surrender, and in the end, nothing but victory. Today, some of the hunters' remaining rats of Tobruk gathered to remember their fallen comrades in Newcastle, a day they thought they'd never see.
Just after the siege started, after the first few weeks, I honestly thought, how in the hell are we ever going to get out of this place?
Modern-day soldiers and civic leaders honoured the surviving rats for their service, but they weren't about to think they did something extraordinary.
No, we don't. We really don't. We were too young and stupid.
And while the last post sounded again, it wasn't for the service itself. After rumours it would be the last one, the veterans confirmed they'll return next year. It seems the state government has a fight on its hands over Warramai. Today, staff met with Shadow Juvenile Justice Minister Patricia Forsyth, who's pledged to take their concerns to Parliament.
It's a decision, the closure of Warramai, that doesn't make economic sense, but more than that, it doesn't make sense for the staff or the detainees.
Employees say there's a shortage of beds in the juvenile detention system, not in excess, and that the Frank Baxter facility on the Central Coast isn't appropriate for them or their detainees. They claim $16 million was set aside for a new local centre, and they want one built.
The Hunter is an area which does have a significant number of young people in detention, and so to move out of the area for families, for youth workers, for the young people to have contact with their community becomes really difficult.
Nursing a broken hand, Watts let his legs do the talking at training today. Come May 20, they'll be well versed in the art of kickboxing once again after a 2-year layoff to concentrate on boxing.
2 years ago I could not get a fight in kickboxing. After holding the world title for 4 years, I still can get a fight, so then I concentrated on boxing.
Watts spent 4 years perfecting his skills in Japan and will bring his trademark moves to Newcastle for a title fight against Frenchman Jean-Francois Bellinger.
If I lose one world title, it's like losing all 4 of them because then I'm not the champion. To me, they're unified, they're all together. If I lose this world title, well then I'll retire from kickboxing.
Newcastle will have one of its own on fight night as well, with Ben Steele to fight another Frenchman for a world amateur title. Steele admits to nerves but says he can't wait to star in front of his hometown.
The hardest part of the fight is getting into the ring. Once you're in there, it's not too bad, but just the fact that you're walking out and you're going to have this support behind you, it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier and really boost your confidence.
And by the look of his technique, the 23-year-old nurse shouldn't need much help in putting his opposition to sleep in May. He ran just a few metres for one try. For another, he ran 95, but both helped thrust Tamana Tahu to the top of the NRL try scorers list, a spot that reflects his level of confidence at the moment. But the 19-year-old isn't getting carried away. Chased for the Kiwi Test team, he's so far shied away from representative commitments, but the junior kangaroo hasn't ruled out playing for New Zealand somewhere down the track.
They think that I'm sort of keeping my eye on the kangaroos, but I'm not. I'm just putting my head down and trying to play the best football I can. Then maybe 2 or 3 years later, I'll think about playing Test football, but I haven't really closed the door on the New Zealand team.
But the win against North Queensland came on the back of a strong performance by his forwards, prop Matt Parsons, one who's relishing the starting role.
That's for sure. You know, I love starting, and as long as my form keeps up, you know, it'll at least make Warren's decisions a little bit difficult when Butsy comes back.
Not quite a John's brother, Peter Shields did his best cameo yesterday as he enjoys some of his best football.
I think that's where the tries are, so I think that's 4, so you know, I think if I get out there a bit more, I might score a few more.
Meanwhile, league administrators are looking into touch judge Steve Nash's allegation that he was hit in the leg by a missile thrown from the crowd. Nash had to be replaced shortly before half-time, unable to run. It's no secret the Newcastle Breakers virtually live off gate takings from home games, and the washout on Friday night has hit hard.
Well, I don't believe the club's in danger. I believe that with good management we can get through. It's made it very, very difficult for the club, and we've just got to rely on our creditors as being a little bit patient.
The club lost around $25,000 with the next home game 2 weeks away.
We're looking at to try and resolve the situation. About the game, particularly with Parramatta, it does look like it may go to 2nd of May.
Meanwhile, in Rugby League, Newcastle will play Riverina at Curry on Saturday in the final of the Country Championship. In Group 21, wins for Aberdeen, Corindai and Singleton. In Rugby Union, 7 Hunter women's players have won country selection after the team won the title at Coffs Harbour. Hunter rallied late in the final, scoring 2 tries in the last 10 minutes to beat Central Coast 13-5 for the title.
Hot on the heels of the New South Wales Heritage Council's visit, the Parks and Playground movement has released its vision for the management of the city's historical sites. It wants Newcastle's best-known heritage attractions grouped together under the umbrella of a master plan.
too long we've let our heritage go in Newcastle, and now's the time to really make a shining example here. Nobbies, the breakwater, the convict breakwater, the convict mines underneath Fort Scratchley itself, and the convict lumber yard.
As well as calling for extensive archaeological investigation of convict sites in the city, the group also wants a world-class interpretive centre built in time for the bicentenary of settlement in 2004.
We want the interpretive centre to have access to the convict coal mines underneath the fort.
The organisation hopes to promote the region's unique convict, maritime and industrial heritage to tourists.
This will become a real destination point, and we can promote it as such.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
These are some of the fittest athletes in Australia, and when it comes to the discipline of step aerobics, they're the best. The Troop of Six won the New South Wales state titles last June and the Nationals in October, cementing their right to compete in the world titles in Belgium next month.
We're seeking to beat the best in the world and put Australia on the map in terms of professional aerobics.
The cost of getting to Europe to compete almost sunk the girls' hopes, but a lifeline came today from the University of Newcastle, who donated $4,000 on the proviso that the squad be named the Uni of Newcastle Elite Step Team.
They're the national champions, and the team is now called the University of Newcastle Step Team, so we want to support them as best we can.
The squad contains 2 sets of twins, but the absence of one of the members has made training a challenge.
One of the twins is in fact in Dublin, and we send videos to Nicole every couple of weeks saying this is where we're up to, or this is what we're doing, this is what training involves. So we're going to arrive in Belgium a week earlier, try to get it all together.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's a long road from the backyard band to musical fame, but these students from St Francis Xavier College took their first step to success today. 5 bands fought it out in the annual Battle of the Bands competition.
The main thing here today is that they get a chance to perform in front of 1,000 of their peers, and I think that's the real bonus.
And while winning doesn't guarantee success, previous winners have been catapulted to bigger things.
Supersonic last year was a band from the school that went on to win the New South Wales section of the Battle of the Bands contest, and that was based on purely original songs.
Each band played 2 songs, a cover and an original composition.
The timing's perfect. NXFM are sponsoring the Rock of Stedford, which is on next month, and they have the Battle of the Bands contest as part of that. And so I'm hoping that 2 or 3 of our bands will submit an entry for that contest.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
These pictures, shot by undercover meat workers in the Middle East, graphically show animal handling practices far different from those in Australia.
The conditions are shocking, unacceptable, and shouldn't be tolerated.
Now meat workers and animal liberationists have come together to stop the practice, particularly a shipment of 13,000 cattle bound for the Middle East. While the Meat Workers Union is concerned about the cruelty to export cattle, it's joined the alliance angry that cattle are being exported at the expense of Australian workers, who say cattle can be slaughtered here to meet strict Middle Eastern religious codes. It's estimated 2,000 meat workers' jobs have disappeared in towns like Aberdeen, Maxville and Lismore.
Our information is that there will be 1 million head of cattle leave our ports in Australia to go export this year alone.
The union claims the shipment of cattle was due to leave Newcastle Port this Sunday. It now believes that because of protest action, the shipment could leave a port in Victoria. The company behind the shipment, Elders, has refused to comment outright on which port the cattle will leave. That hasn't stopped unions and animal liberationists who say they'll keep up the fight.
This is only the start of a much larger campaign. We will continue that alliance, not just for Newcastle, but for every other state and for every other port in Australia where the live cattle are being shipped from.
Blake Doyle, NBN News. It was a homecoming for a group of Sisters of Mercy in Newcastle today. Most of them former residents of the Tyers Hill Convent. Opened in 1928, it closed in 1997, then fell into a derelict state. Now the St Vincent de Paul Society has breathed new life into the building, renovating it to the tune of $600,000 and renaming it Vinnie's Lodge. The convent's charitable history will live on. It'll be home to 11 financially disadvantaged students from country New South Wales.
It's a great opportunity to provide young people with, I guess, a bit more of an economical way to study, something that might make it a little bit easier on their families when it comes to them leaving the nest.
Sister Anne Thompson was one happy to see her old home rejuvenated.
We're very happy about that. I think all the nuns are the same. To think that it's going to be used, Vincent de Paul are going to run it for the students, which is good.
St Vinnie's Lodge will be officially opened on April the 30th. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Oh, look at a different colour.
Due to the fact that they live close to the surface and they presume that it's because they're actually getting a suntan.
Video referee Chris Ward had to try and explain this week why he awarded a try to Penrith winger Chris Hicks after all the replays showed Hicks failed to ground the ball over the line against Parramatta last Saturday night. Referee Mogseen Jadwat's communication with the referee was spot on by telling Ward that he thought Hicks had been held up over the line. Now, I'm dumbfounded how Ward then awarded the try despite inconclusive replays in contrast to the on-field referees' impressions. Let's go on to some plays from last week, and the Broncos Storm match was a really fiery one last week. Tony Carroll making his mark, as you can see, while Gordon Tallis also got one on his old rival Rodney Howe. And David Atkins, the young front rower from Canberra, had planned on letting nothing get in his way to score this try, but unfortunately he was beaten at the post. And you've got a feel for Jeremy Slosh after this attempted tap kick last weekend. And also, it's good to see Jason Lowry score his first try in 138 grade games. That's almost 8 years of rugby league. On to round 11, and it's the last week players have to impress for Australian selection in the Anzac Test, and Adam McDougall will be looking for a big game against Matt Rogers after national coach Chris Anderson scoffed at claims that if Adam McDougall has a big game, he'll be in the side. Now, Anderson said that Adam would have to score 6 tries and he'd only be a half a chance then of making the side. Now, personally, I can't understand why the Kangaroo coach would say that, and in my opinion, Wendell Saylor has one wing spot sewn up, but the other one is definitely between Adam and Matt Rogers. And now on to my tips, and of course the Knights to win tonight. Newcastle beat the Sharks at home last time, and I think they can do it again. The Brisbane Broncos St George game is a tough one to pick, but I've gone for an upset. The Saints to win there, the Panthers, the Storm, Raiders, West Tigers to win, and the Cowboys over Auckland. Well, good luck. That's it for my tips. I'll see you next week. Back to you, Rabs.
Even if you've never heard of Tim Rice, chances are at some time in your life you've sung the lyrics of one of his songs. His most recent credits in a career spanning 30 years include Jesus Christ Superstar, The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. And today he was in Newcastle to survey the venue for a new show featuring his best hits.
The fact that it's a big place that can take Anthony Warlow and Kate Sobrano at full tilt with a big orchestra is fantastic, but also it seems to be just right to get an intimate chat in there as well, and that's what the show's about, really.
Newcastle is the only regional city which will host the Concert Spectacular with performances from Anthony Warlow, Kate Sobrano and In Excess. But this time Tim Rice will come out from behind the scenes to perform and give the background to what went into writing some of the world's most famous and not so famous tunes.
The thing is that it's a kind of greatest hits show, but I want it to be a bit more than that, because although 75% of the material people I think will know pretty well, there's quite a bit of brand new stuff or old stuff that flopped, and it's quite interesting to see why it flopped. Plus a little bit of chat from me linking the whole thing together.
Newcastle is the second stop in the 5-week tour, which kicks off on April 27. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
Speculation has been rife all week over the financial problems that's enveloped the soccer club. At the start of the week, General Manager Maurice McAllister said the club had asked creditors to be patient, with the washed-out match with Parramatta costing the club thousands.
But we're still paying creditors too. You know, well, it's not as though we've stopped paying them. That would be, you know, certainly a serious situation.
Today, the club's phones at Birmingham Gardens were cut off.
The number you have called is not connected.
Club staff can't say when they'll be hooked back up, while owner David Hall and Mr McAllister have been in Sydney in meetings. When contacted this afternoon, Mr McAllister said everything was fine. In fact, he was off to pay some bills. Which begs the question, for a club with no cash flow, where's this new injection of cash coming from? It's a question match creditors would be asking, given Newcastle's next home game is 8 days away.
Under good management, we will survive. There is no doubt that Newcastle will be there next year.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
For some, today's flight from the tarmac at Tari Airport was straight down memory lane.
It's been a big part of Australian history. It was a great use to people during the war, being the biscuit bomber or whatever they wanted to call it, but there's a lot of people that can relate to that.
Dakota National Air has the largest fleet of DC-3s in Australia and is bringing the planes and their history to the Manning this weekend. And nostalgia is part of what keeps the aircraft in the sky.
I had a flight from Darwin to Brisbane in 1946 in a DC-3. So it's sort of a sentimental journey.
Even for those who don't remember, today's joy flight over the Manning and Great Lakes was no less of an experience. The DC-3 will be over the region again tomorrow before heading north to Port Macquarie and Coffs Harbour. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
Dark clouds loomed over Curry Sports Ground, but the lightning came early on the field. Newcastle's Danny Costello charging down a Riverina ball before reaching the try line unassisted. Riverina's tough defence wasn't matched by its attack, the frustration showing as Newcastle shut down several opportunities. A sun shower cooled things down before Leo Dinover kicked a penalty goal and Jason Marshall got across to take the score to 10-0. Minutes before the break, Riverina scored their one and only try, Ben Woods doing the honours, Mark Wilson converting. Newcastle ran away with the game in the second half with tries to Scott Connolly, Danny Costello and Craig Wise. Full-time score 30-6.